Welcome to the Weekly Pistol Podcast. At the end of this hour, we want you better than when we started.
All right. What's good? Back again in the studio. This one's going to be all audio, basically because there's just three of us here, and we're not the most handsome devils in the world, so we figured we'd just give you the audio. And Veronica's out doing her Veronica stuff. Teabag is taking his finals in the nursing, not to be a nurse, but I'm sure one of the finals along the way, so wish him luck on that. And for those of you that are new, we're Pistol, post-incident trauma and law enforcement. Make sure you hit the bell, subscribe, like, leave comments. One of the things that I wanted to address real quick from last week, I spoke to a member and I was asking him about the last two podcasts, and he's like, you guys were really happy, and I was like, well, we were coming off the hard podcast from Tanya the week before. And he's like, can you just maybe address, you guys are always happy and jovial on the podcast. And I said, yeah, that's a good point. And what I want to say is part of the reason that we're where we're at now is because we had years of therapy and treatment, and we're just in a better place now than we were 6 years ago.
Speak for yourself.
Or 9 years ago, whatever it is. But hey, Robert's shaking his head over there. So that's the reason why, I've seen a lot of podcasts on PTSD with military and police and heard, survivors and stuff. And I think along the line, I just realized if you sit in shit long enough, it stops stinking. And then you don't know you're in shit anymore. And you can get lost in that. So, sometimes it's okay to be somber and sit in your shit, and I'll come sit with you, but eventually you got to get out of it and move forward. That's with therapy and all. Another thing is usually we do Blue Help for the week. As of this week, 89 officers year to date have taken their lives. I believe it's going to be 90. I don't know if they're going to report it, but locally we had an officer up north, young officer, take his life last week that I got a phone call on. So Blue Help says 89. I say 90 because I know about the other one. But anyways, moving forward, today we've got a millennial. And you've been actually part of Pistol for a while, right, Robert?
Yeah, my wife sought you out. I believe it was 2017.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's when you were in the shit show. Then you fell back. You got out of the shit show, and then you went back into the shit show.
Yep.
And just for transparency reasons, if you listen to the 2021 podcast, you heard me talk about Discord and gaming. Robert is part of our Discord, and he does game with us.
Most skilled and knowledgeable player.
Yeah, for Call of Duty.
For everything.
You come into Arma 3 and you fucking get us killed. We're trying to run missions, and he's fucking, sorry, guys. And then I hear the grenade. We're all dead.
There's no proof to that.
Oh, you're lucky there's no proof to that. I'll blame Zach, though, because he usually gets shot a lot. But anyways, so also with me in the studio today is Scotty the intern.
Howdy.
Who will be talking about his critical incident in time. And first time coming on the mic, so I appreciate it. Chime in. So, Robert, just real quick background on you. Are you native Arizona?
No, born and raised Northern Illinois. Rockford, Illinois, to be exact.
Right on. When did you move out here?
2006.
2006?
Yep.
When did you become a cop? Or when did you get in law enforcement?
2006.
You came out here for that reason?
I came out here for that reason.
Where'd you cut your teeth at?
I cut my right here in Maricopa County as a detention officer.
Yeah. Right on.
Always.
Did you have an A number or a B number?
I had one of the lowest B numbers.
Oh my God, you're a B number. That's dirty.
I was 0. It started with 05 though.
All right, I'll give it to you.
Okay. Last time I checked, they're like in the 3000s with the B numbers.
With the B numbers? Yeah.
So,
I was an A number in the 6s. So that's that's a kick in the balls, to be honest with you. Yeah, I am. So you move out here. So kind of give us a backstory. Did you Did you come out here and then find law enforcement, or were you back in Illinois, found law enforcement, and then moved out here?
I should backtrack a little bit. So we moved out here during middle school because my parents got their jobs transferred out here, and then we moved back right before high school. So I was aware of Arizona. My dad stayed out here when they got divorced, so we would visit in the summer times. I got involved with the Explorer program back home in Illinois, where I'm from. I was also on the volunteer fire department for a short amount of time, and I just happened to be I was working one night at a local restaurant, and I saw a penny saver ad for Maricopa County detention officers now hiring only 18 years old. Anywhere where I'm from, you had to be 21 to do anything, even to get your foot in the door at the jail. So I did it. I applied. Actually came out here during Christmas break, my senior year of high school, to do all the polygraph, background interview, all that mumbo jumbo, psych poly. And then, 2 days later, 2 days after graduation, I was in the, out here getting ready for the detention academy. So
2 days after high school graduation?
2 days after high school graduation.
That's coming in the world hot right there. You're coming into Maricopa County. What did you ever work like the lockdown units? Did you work yards?
Yeah, I started over at Lower Buckeye in the medium security general pop, and then did a brief stint in the juveniles.
Fuck that.
Yeah, that's why
That's fucking miserable.
That's why it was brief. And then from there I went to intake, and that's where I had the most fun.
Intake, like at
intake,
the original intake?
No,
or
not the
Fourth
Matrix.
Avenue?
Fourth Avenue.
Oh, the Matrix.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The only thing worse than juveniles was working the females. I did that for a day, and I immediately threatened to resign. Like, don't put me back in that fucking whatever the hell it was.
So what year was that?
Oh man, by the time I got to intake, it was 2000, probably right before 2008, and I was there for a year, and that's when I went sworn.
So prior to that, what was your life experience? Did you experience, like, were you from an average neighborhood, like poor white trash neighborhood?
Life was great. Typical Midwest neighborhood, typical upbringing. My high school experience was different than your average. I mean, everyone got along with everyone. I mean, just a humble, small town. It was awesome.
So was it a culture shock when you came out here?
No, because we lived here briefly while I was in middle school. And then I'd come out here during the summers and spring break of high school to visit my dad. So I was familiar with the area.
Okay. So once you got in the jails, what was that like? Was it just pretty much like an adventure, or was it, because with me, I worked lockdown a lot. So there was a lot of assaults. I did a lot of maximum. There were, stabbings and hangings, but in general population, it was usually pretty laid back. Everybody minded their business. Was that for you, or except the juvies? Like, juvies are just stupid.
I had a great career. I honestly am a strong believer in anyone that wants to be sworn law enforcement out there needs to start in the jails.
Oh yeah.
100%.
Absolutely.
And
should be mandatory, like they do in LA.
Yeah. Because the greatest thing I got in there was learning how to talk to people and learning how to talk to these guys. Because it's a different level, and unless you experience it, you're not gonna. Yeah. We can sit here and talk about it all we want, but unless you experience it, you're not gonna know how that is.
Right. So. Scotty the intern, you don't know about that. That's where I got my my 3rd degree black belt in verbal judo. What do you know about verbal judo there, Scotty?
I just know that in Mesa they don't use it, so.
That's right. There's no need to. You want to go hands-on, let's do it. Ain't no verbal judo in Mesa. So that is true, though. I remember the first time I walked into the pod, it was a Max pod, and I had chemical agent, the OC spray, and something called an ERD, which is like an electrical some shit. It was like a handheld taser. And 90% of the time it didn't work. So I just basically had a block. But I talked my way out of a lot of shit out of there. You definitely, and that set me up for being able to go, when I got to the streets, it set me up to be able to go to people's doors and, hey, knock and talks were easy for me because, you fucking finagled your way into shit all the time in the jail. So you do that for about a year and a half, and you're 20 and some change, right? You apply for your first sworn position, which was...
Well... This was, so when I went sworn was during the 2008, 2007 recession whatever it was when everyone pretty much went on a freeze. So I was in the process with pretty much every agency in Maricopa County. I eventually got on with the sheriff's office south of Maricopa County, and then I was one of 4 in that academy group. And then, yes, when I started the academy, I was 20 and a half.
20 and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Young, dumb, full of cum, ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
You going to take on the world?
Yeah, even after that academy class, there was a 3.5 year period after that where we were junior for 3.5 years. It was not a fun time.
Sheriff's offices aren't known for the most amount of money. So if you remember at the time, what were you get paid hourly?
When I was in the academy, you got to remember that I was 20 and a half. So I was at 21 something in the, and that was awesome. I mean,
you were a fucking millionaire.
When I was 18 going to work in the jail, it was 15 an hour. And then I remember we got a cost of living or a merit increase when I got out. It was like 17.30s.
In the jails?
Yeah. But by the time I left, I was almost at like 20 an hour in the jail.
Yeah. Dude, when I started in the jail, it was $12.75 an hour. It wasn't no cancel fucking rent. Like, I still had bills to pay, and I did it on $12.75. I know you fucks out there are going to say cost of living was cheaper back then. Motherfucker, still shit cost money. You know what I mean? So you go to this other sheriff's office,
Mm-hmm.
go through the academy.
Yep.
Graduate, go to FTO. Now, the sheriff's office that you worked for isn't necessarily known to be busy, but
Oh, it's busy.
it is because you've got a lot of the southern region down there, right?
Yeah.
So anything within the first year of your duties, did anything stand out? Like, do you remember anything coming out and sticking to you? Any bad calls, shootings, anything like that?
I mean, like you said, the particular area where we were at, I mean, there's no denying the violence that happens on the border. But yeah, there's nothing at that age that really strikes you. At that time in FTO, you're just more focused on, not fucking up and not getting fired.
Yeah.
Getting through it.
Getting all your traffic stops and shit in.
Yeah, through probation, all that stuff. So not that I can recall.
So you go through that, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're solo deputy. How's that go?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah. Up until about a year and a half. I mean, I made national headlines in 2011 for the whole, saving the 2 lives in an hour thing. That was fun, but, there was a lot of trauma in patrol in my area. So, I mean, there was quite a few.
Trauma for you or just trauma in general?
Both. Yeah. I mean, it was a shit show.
What were you coming up against when you say trauma?
Just all the violence that goes along with, the cartels and everything and down south down there.
Yeah.
So
a lot of the body trafficking and all that good stuff.
Yeah, and it's not so much that. I mean, there's the trauma, but the ones that while I'm here talking, the ones that fucked up were just normal patrol calls that any of us could have encountered. So
right.
But we had that. It's like you wore 2 different uniforms. You had to deal with, your normal city police stuff, but then you had to deal with that as well. So
yeah. Any big loads come through there? Because that particular agency has a pretty good stretch of highway. Did you work the highways a lot or no?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was considered a slow day if it was less than 2 loads that got picked up that day.
Cool.
So it was 24/7. So
nice. So do you remember the first call that really stuck with you? Like how many years on?
Probably when right before when I was still on patrol. I was promoted to detective, but we were waiting for a body to fill my spot on the road. So I think I was like a month and a half away from getting over there was when the one incident that I had that pretty much took everything downhill from there. So
how long did you have on before you went over to Detective Bureau?
Right at 3 years.
Right at that mark.
Yeah.
What about, hey, Scotty, how long in your department does it take to be a detective usually? 3 years?
That all depends on the position.
How long did it take you to be a detective?
8 years, almost.
God damn.
Another benefit, though, I mean, lower pay, but more opportunities.
Yeah, less, but then you got to wait for people. You know,
Yeah, it was a good 6 months. Like I literally got the phone call that's like, hey, congratulate. Oh, but by the way, the people that are in backgrounds right now are going to be your replacement. So it's going to be a while. So.
all right.
Yeah.
So can you tell us about that critical incident? You're the first one that started the spiral.
Yeah. This one's definitely, it's an emotional, it starts out awesome, and shitty. So it was one of our double shift nights. I remember it was in a city down south of here, probably about 40,000 people. Call comes out for a child not breathing, blue, everything, 2-year-old. I show up first. I get there, immediately start CPR. Right when fire got there, I actually got a pulse and got her awake right before they got there. So we got her out, just following her, staying in the ambulance with her, getting her to the air evac still, and just watching her play with the mask and stuff. It was just unbelievable because, 10 minutes ago I was watching this baby was blue, so I, emotions running high. Fuck yeah, we just saved a life. It was an awesome team effort all around between myself and the other deputies and, EMS, fire, all that. Was just, we were all in a good mood. Beginning a shift the following night, right at the beginning of shift, I'm just getting into my beat boundary. Call kicks out, same address, and she's not breathing again.
Same reason?
Same reason, not breathing. I show up this time, same condition. Family's freaking out. I start CPR. I'm not getting anything. At this point, I remember at that point, and right before I had shown up, my beat partner at the time got there before me and was doing CPR and chest compressions. And once I got there, he's like, "You're in." And when I first started doing compressions again, I'm like, "She's gone." And I remember EMS getting there. It was bad to the point to where they just did the scoop and run.
Right.
They don't even go. And I just distinctly remember just watching her arms flail, like in the EMT's arms. And at that point, it was just a whole range of emotions. Like, why the fuck was she discharged from the hospital? What's going on? And I just saved this girl the night before, and now she's dead. And I remember, I don't know, I just remember blacking out. And then I remember punching my patrol unit in front of my supervisor at the time, who was a freaking chode. And he saw me do that. Obviously, my emotions are running high. I'm thinking nothing doing. He goes, "I had to shake it off, get back to work." Okay.
Pretty fucking standard.
Okay, cool.
So was this a medical issue? Not drowning or anything like that, or was it drowning?
It was just a medical
issue.
Yeah. Like I said, I was flabbergasted why she went from, we had to bring her back out of a full code, and she got released in the hospital in less than 24 hours. It's still, to this day, it pisses me off, but yeah, so
you punch the car.
Yeah.
And boss says, shake it off and get back to work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any schism?
No, nothing.
Nothing.
And what sucked even more is because the reason I brought up before during my patrol time, I had the national media attention for the tour one day. So my, sheriff at the time thinks it's a good idea to publicize this. So the PIO blasted another news story, and the way that news articles were deputy shows up, the same residence in less than 24 hours for child not breathing, brings her, it goes through the whole story. And then at the bottom, it's like, Deputy Taylor is the same deputy back in blah, blah, blah that did this and this. So it's like,
now you failed.
I failed, but, remember I did this. So it's like, what the, it's just a real
Those departments are fucked up in the head.
I'm 23, 24 at this time. So, I'm still.
What kind of support was offered to you?
Nothing.
Nothing at all?
No, like I said, this certain supervisor was a chode. So.
What about from your squad mates?
I was alone. No one else saw it. So.
No one else saw the call?
No one else was there after. Like, it was.
Oh, you mean they just didn't mention it?
No, it was just me and my supervisor at the call, because the other deputy that I responded went with the ambulance to help escort him to the hospital. So.
What about like at subsequent briefings or something?
Mm-mm.
No one.
They didn't bring it up or nothing?
Mm-mm. The way that it worked was, some incidents they would, some they wouldn't. It was just like whoever knew about it or whoever made the call at the time. So.
Right. Yeah, we used to get, did you get those in yours? We used to get the briefing, they were called exceptionals. Like from the shifts before. Or
we got emails. They'd send an email out for significant incidents.
They didn't brief you on it in briefing?
Sometimes, but most of the time it was just an email.
Yeah, we got
the same stuff.
Yeah, we got something called exceptional. So they would come up in briefing, and I mean, obviously it was exceptional if the PIO wanted to fucking put it out there, and So if it goes out,
certain sheriff's offices are media hounds, so you got to remember the sheriff
particular
is a
one
political
was
position.
yeah.
that particular one.
That particular sheriff was. He made his own news.
Yeah.
But so it going out the way that it did in the media, the deputies didn't even see if you were all right. Like, nobody checked on you.
No, it was just, honestly, it was another day for it, because that was a typical, all that stuff always happened to
Ain't
me.
nothing typical about that call,
Well,
man.
no, it was typical in their eyes, probably, because that kind of stuff always happens, especially, you get that term shit magnet. I mean, it happened, that kind of stuff would happen. If it was going to happen to someone, it was going to happen to me.
Yeah.
So,
No, man, that's fucked. That's like Tanya's. She fucking, when she talked about her last one, she responded to the same house. I mean, I understand responding to the same house in the same month or even couple weeks, but fuck, 24 hours, bro?
well,
Like,
and to be fair, I never said anything. I shut up after that. As soon as,
what made you shut up?
just move on, carry on,
Because what you're stays with you. Is that the one that,
That's what started the downfall.
so what happens from there?
I get into detectives, as a 24, 25-year-old kid, get a sweet Monday through Thursday schedule with weekends off, so party.
Day shift.
I'm pretty much all this disposable income. I mean,
You're single.
yeah.
No kids.
I don't have any financial responsibilities.
You bought
I'm
an
making all
Xbox,
this
didn't you?
money, working all this overtime. Yeah, I was stupid with it. And because I was trying to deflect from thinking about the shit that I've been through.
Were you married at the time?
Mm-mm.
Single?
Mm-hmm.
Cash flow?
Yep.
No one governing your actions?
Nope.
What'd you dive into?
Like-
Alcohol?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's advice. You're a boozer like me. I'm looking at you there, Scotty. You're in that company.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You're a boozer. So kind of get us through that. Like what what leads you? Clearly, the call leads you to the alcohol, but what did it do for you by drinking, I guess? What were you looking for at the bottom of the bottle?
It first started out with sleep, because you know how it gets with just, I can't get to sleep. And what's awesome about this job is you can dive so far into your job. So when you're at work, you're awesome. You're 100%, you're good to go. But then when you get home, you're not. And when you get home, you got time, when nothing's going on, when you got nothing to stay occupied with, and that's when your mind starts going back to these things. And that's the only thing that gets it to stop.
Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, mine isn't as similar to yours, but did you find yourself? So there are times, even to this day, as far out as I am 9 years, I still fear going to sleep sometimes. Even with my service dog and all the coping mechanisms, the reason that what I was looking for at the bottom of that bottle was just not just safety, but I needed something to shut my mind off, hoping the screams would go away, or it would just shut off my brain from that, because it just constantly hearing that over and over and over, and you get to a point where the sanest I felt was in the craziest world I was in, which was work. So going back to work, where all the trauma was, seemed the safest, which is fucking weird. Like that was where I had the most control. When I was at home, I had no control.
Absolutely.
None. Those demons would pop up, and man, it became a pissing match of how much am I going to tolerate before I, pour that next drink. So at this point, you're struggling with, we'll just say acute stress at that point. And your fix is booze. And how'd that work out for you?
Not good.
Didn't think it would.
It got to a point, down the road, it was working good for, 2 to 3 years. And, down the road, it starts, as much as you don't want it to, it starts affecting you in all aspects of your life. And, I was just getting lazy, complacent, just not caring anymore. I was going to get myself or someone else hurt. And, and, eventually that stuff leads you to trouble. And, instead of dealing with it, you run from it. And so that's when I was like, screw this. And I left and went to go to another agency thinking life would have been grand. So, and by this time, I thought everything was going to be great because I had met my now wife who, we were living together at the time. So I was like, new start, that'll fix everything. New department, new start, and, new life with the wife.
Still boozing though, right?
Oh yeah. Thinking that's okay though. Cause I'm not an alcoholic. It's not, cause I'm not drinking now for those reasons anymore.
People are like, you're an alcoholic? No, alcohol's deny it. I don't deny it. I drink all the goddamn time.
Exactly.
What about you, Scotty? What were you looking for when you started going into the bottle? What were you hoping to find?
I never really hit the bottle. I guess I shouldn't say that. I never hit the bottle.
You're lucky I don't have a button here to call bullshit on it.
Consistently. Just a way to forget. But, my situation was a lot different.
What, because you boozed for a different reason? What was different about it? You got to have a reason you're going in the bottle for something.
Fair enough. Like I said, just to forget. But I didn't hit it as often as many others, I should say.
He's minimizing is all he's doing. We drank daily. He just drank one giant big gulp in a day.
It's just the size of the glass that matters. Right?
Either way, it still affects you the same. Yeah.
In there, it's it's just a glass.
Yeah.
It's one glass, but it's a whole bottle.
One is too much and five's not enough. That was my thought. Mm-hmm. So, were there any other critical incidents after? The girl, all from the sheriff's office before you went to the other agency.
Oh yeah, there was a whole bunch.
Like, just kind of gloss over them. Like, what else did you have? Did you work homicide there? Bodies? You get a lot of bodies?
You work everything there. I mean, you can be assigned. It's different down there. It's a whole new world. But yeah, I mean, I went through the whole, the one that just broke the camel in the back with, that sheriff's office was that double homicide that I helped out. And just, it wasn't even the most horrific or gruesome or anything that I've been a part of, but it was just for some reason emotional and just digging up those bodies and stuff like that. And I was already still drinking on my days off at this point and, just being lazy and complacent and just hiding it from everyone and still dealing with, the incidents that were bothering me years later still, from the
What about your support system? When you were at the sheriff's office before you met your wife, what was your support system?
Once again, this is all self-inflicted because I knew down the road there's still guys there at the time that I could open up to. And if I just would have asked for help there at that time, I probably wouldn't be in this situation right now. I still have guys to this day, guys that were with me in my wedding, that I still talk to every day that are still there. So they would have helped me out.
Yeah, but I don't know that you could take all that blame on yourself. You're 20 some years old and you've got a supervisor who was probably a lot older than you telling you shake it off and move forward. And you did as you were told. So I don't really see how there's a self-blame for that.
Yeah, but at the same time, I hit it really well at work.
Well, we all do.
Yeah.
You don't really have a choice. I mean, at 23, you're trying to make yourself super cop. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be the weak one. And now you've got a supervisor telling you, like, these are all the wrong things to say to people.
Yeah.
We've learned that along our lifetime and in our careers, like the shooters, it seems like it's always a fucking lieutenant that walks up and says, why didn't you kill him? I would have killed him. And then they've never fucking pulled the trigger. That's the stuff that stays with you, and listening to you right there, I don't know that anyone would have reached out. I know at my age, if a sergeant would have told me to shake it off and move forward, it's exactly what I would have done. I mean, that's what we do. I think that's the expectation, not only for a man, but a young man who's trying to make a career and a lifetime out of something. And you did exactly as you were instructed to do. Because what do they do in the academy? They chop us down and they build up a new officer. Mm-hmm. And you're supposed to be able to absorb all this and hold the space. And you did, but then no one checked on you. Right? So, I wouldn't beat yourself up too much, mainly because that's a pivotal moment right there. And if you guys are listening and your supervisor, drop a comment. I do know that there's people that listen that are supervisors. And, is that something that you find normal as a supervisor? Or do you pull your fucking subordinate in and say, look, we need to have a talk. This is not okay. But fuck, he saw you punch a car. That's not normal. Instead of fucking telling you, hey, bro,
You know how hard it is to dent a Crown Vic?
yeah.
Not as hard as it used to be.
Yeah. So the old rockets that we had were tanks. So that double homicide, you're digging up bodies. That was a pretty well-known homicide, if I remember correctly. It was.
Yeah. And then, and that's when, stuff started to hit rock bottom. That's when I ran from issues where if I just would have asked for help, it wouldn't have been an issue. And that's when I just decided to, quit. And that's when I went to the second department I went to with the tribal police department.
Did you know that you could ask for help at the sheriff's office?
No.
Did no one ever talked about that in the academy? What did they tell you about bad calls in the academy?
You got that. I don't even want to go into SISM because SISM is bullshit.
I agree.
My opinion. So, that's the most that you would get at the time. And that's, all right, whoever shows up. And then you get everyone in a room together. No one's going to fucking talk.
Right.
So,
well, in your situation, it was just you and your beat partner, right?
Yeah. Yeah, nothing. And this wasn't the first thing. That certain beat partner that I had, we went through a shitload of trauma incidents to this day that I'm still processing. So it's not like it was I never acted out like that before. I've been through those incidents, so I don't. Yeah, it's just one of those.
Somebody should have seen something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Starting with that sergeant. That sergeant should have known something.
From what I've been told, though, and like I said, I still have a lot of friends there. He was demoted. He's still working there, but he's not a supervisor anymore, which is a good thing. So,
Buck should have been demoted that night.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a recluse in the sheriff's office.
Mm-hmm.
You're indictable, like I was, just reckless. And when do you make the determination, or what causes you to make the determination to jump ship?
Oh, because stuff was starting to catch up with me. That laziness and complacency, come back to bite you with reports and shit like, not anything. I didn't do anything crazy, stupid. It's just stuff like that. You get lazy and complacent, and instead of dealing with it, like I could have dealt with the consequences, got help, got a write-up or whatever. But, I had this persona of wanting to be perfect. So that's when you go, see, I can go somewhere else.
So then you make the brilliant idea that you're going to go from a sheriff's office to a tribal community.
Good times. That's when you start chasing dollars and not logic.
Yeah, well, there's no, you're a misdemeanor cop because there's no felonies on the res, right?
Yeah. And that's where, and this particular place didn't really help because you're lucky if you get one call a shift. It's great. And then, you're going to.
One call a shift on the reservation?
Oh, yeah.
What? Oh, they just handle their own business and murder and bury.
Pretty much. But yeah, that's when, I got away from the agency, but it got worse after that with, the flashbacks and, other incidents popping up. And that's when, I got heavy in the drinking to the point where my wife came home, thought I was dead, but ended up in the hospital. And that's how, we found you.
Yeah.
And
I remember that call.
Yeah. And then, found you and then started going to pistol and was feeling great, was doing everything, I thought pistol was, what is that rule you have at the beginning? This isn't your only form of therapy.
Yeah.
I'm your poster boy for that. I remember we always joke about that, right? And I'm thinking life's good. I'm like, I got this. I got 7 more years at this point. I got 7 more years. I can ride this out at this agency, milk my retirement, and I'm done. And then I didn't go that way. The one critical incident that happened at that place in 4 years happened to the shit magnet.
You.
Yeah. The shit always follows you. So
what happened on that one?
That was, it was just, it wasn't really, it was a bad 963, which is a fatal accident. And like I said, it's not even the most gruesome thing or the worst thing that you've seen. It's just
one too many bad calls.
Enough is enough at this point. I'm fucking done. And that's when, but then you start, I don't know what to do with my life. What else am I going to do? All this other stuff. I stopped going to pistol.
Yeah.
And then you got to the point to where, I was ready to end the life. And then, made a phone call, to a friend of mine from the sheriff's office that I work at, who is still there, and he's the one that came over, talked me off the ledge, and now I got the fun trip to the hospital, got to put the red suit on, and
You went to the funny farm there.
yeah, and then another friend of ours who used to come to Pistol as well, found a treatment center for me where they had a first responder program. And yeah, that's where I went for my 30-day vacation.
You're on a vacation?
Yeah.
Like a staycation?
Yeah. And then at that point, you knew it's over.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's where they take the pins and give you the rubber pins. Tanya knows all about that
point,
shit.
You know it's over.
So,
but it's either, I was going to die and I couldn't do it. So
let's go back to when you met your wife. So your wife only knows you as fucked up.
At the beginning, yeah.
Right? She didn't know you prior to... You were already...
No, she did. She did.
She knew you when you were at the sheriff's office?
Yeah.
Or even before that?
Yeah.
When you were in the jails?
No, not before. No, she met me like about my last couple of years at the sheriff's office.
But you were already fucked up.
Yeah, but
right?
I was hiding it real well. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So she just knew you drank, and that was pretty standard.
Yeah, it was pretty much because when I was drinking, I always made sure I was with like groups of friends and stuff. So it was just like I was casually, socially partying. So
when would you say she noticed a difference about you?
Oh, when I started hiding all the alcohol at the house.
She found it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
She didn't bring it to your attention. She just pretended she didn't see it.
No, she did, and I would make excuses thinking that she didn't know. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So the 63 that you were on, that just pretty much is the end all be all.
Yeah, it's pretty much I'm done with this shit. I've
Yeah.
seen enough. Yeah.
So I give you a lot of shit because I call you a millennial. And how old were you when September 11th happened?
If I recall, I can't remember if it was 7th or 8th grade.
Fuck.
But I was in one of those. All I remember was
you learned about it in history class.
No, I remember waking up and then they were saying like my mom was watching the news and they were saying like a small plane. And I remember kids were talking about it when I showed up to school, and then the principal, I guess, told the teachers like keep the news off, but some teachers didn't listen. So it's like, and 7th and 8th grade, we're going class to class. So it's like some classes, okay, we got to watch it for 45 minutes, and the other half were like, the next two you don't, and then you come back and then the towers are gone. You're like, what the fuck happened?
Right.
So, yeah. That was my experience. So
as much shit as I give you, part of the reason is because policing from... Hey, Scotty, what year did you start?
2000.
2000. Okay, so my career in the jails where Robert worked started in like 96. That's where I started. Got hired in 99, I think, something like that. So I always like to ask people around your age, like, did you learn about it, history and shit? I mean, granted, you were alive, and it's a lot better than not being alive and learning about it. But you said you got sworn in 2009.
yes.
So give us your perspective of what you thought policing was going to be like coming in 2009.
I had already had a good idea because I worked intake in the jail. So, you associate with, outside agencies more than your own people. And then, all the ride alongs and then being an explorer, I had a general idea. But then, yeah. So, when I first started, it was fine and dandy. Everyone was getting along. And then shortly after is when all the shit show happened.
And when did you retire? What year?
2019.
2019. So there's always been, you and I have always talked about this. And part of the reason that even more so now, when we came on, Scotty and I came on, there was, no social media. I remember using Nextels and pagers. And I actually remember the very first social media site that we were authorized to use. I was in detectives and I created an undercover MySpace page. You do that, Scotty? You had one of those motherfuckers?
I think I still have it.
That just sounds shady. I don't know why you'd still have it. But anyways.
I never closed it.
Oh, okay. What was policing like having that much, I don't know the word I'm looking for, like that much attention brought in? Because, you were a cop in 2014, 2015. There was all kinds of social media.
Mm-hmm. When I first started, I remember like Facebook was still, you could only have it if you were a student or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But MySpace was, and then I remember Facebook was like, it was like that transition from MySpace to Facebook was when I went through the academy. Because I remember like they did the RTOs and the, whatever the people at the academy will hack into your MySpaces if you don't make them private and stuff like that.
See, I had no idea.
They were embarrassing. They would come in and embarrass recruits that,
No shit?
that they would find on their like.
Fuck, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I had absolutely no idea they did that shit.
Yeah. But, I was involved in social media, but, I was obviously very careful about what you put on there. I know a lot of guys got in trouble, because of that. So
Did you ever, I know they didn't do it till just recently, but with the invention of like TikTok and Instagram, did you ever post that you were a law enforcement?
I mean, I never had anything indicating otherwise. I mean, you can definitely tell I was a cop. I mean, and then the only people I had on Facebook were friends and family, so they all knew anyways.
Okay, so it wasn't like it was just open to the world.
No, it was, I had it locked in private. I mean, you go to those classes, you learn how secure you can make it.
Right.
I mean, it's never always secure, but yeah.
See, I only saw one side of that. Social media and policing. I saw the cop side of that. Scotty knows what I'm talking about, right? We were only on the other side of it chasing, I'd make fun of people all the time. I'm like, they put this shit on social media. Like, it's just for you to grab, I didn't see it from a standpoint of like you where, I've never been on Facebook. I don't understand it. I barely understood MySpace, and I barely got onto TikTok and Instagram, and I'm still trying to learn that shit. So did you see, well, I guess you couldn't really see a difference, but what was it like during that time? Or do you even remember because you were fucking 3 sheets in the wind half the time? What was it like being out exposed like that? Was there a lot of...
Well, it was because I was still like in the academy, and then in the early parts of my career, I was still with that old school before that transition to the new. So I was in that transition phase. So it was always ever changing. So like, start out with a no MDC, then you have an MDC, and then technology goes, and then you get the e-readers and all that other stuff. So
what's an e-reader?
I have no idea.
Like
Scotty looked at me and I'm looking at him like I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
Records, like you can scan like the driver's license and the tickets, you can just print them out and just hand it to them.
Yeah.
I knew our patrol guys had the,
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So I started where, you got a coat, you got a hot tone and you had to look in the map book, or you better have known your 1,000 blocks. I was still in that generation, but I was at the end of that where it was transitioning into with all the tech and everything. So
you actually got to use like the e-reader shit. The highest tech thing that I got right before I retired in 2013, I still remember. I thought it was awesome that when I ran someone's name, I could match their driver's license picture on the screen, the same person. That was like the biggest thing. I know the motors used to have like a fingerprint scanner we would call for, but all this other high tech stuff and all the new stuff that I see on these cops, there was always some kind of junket to sell us, but usually it was a flashlight that cost $350. But now I see like the coolest thing I had was Cool Cop, to plug myself into for the vest. Cause that shit was dope, man. You need that shit in Arizona. So you're boozing it up, you meet your wife and she reaches out to us. How did we play a role, if any, in your life? What did we have an impact?
Oh, what? It's 6 years later and I'm still here. No.
Well, clearly we're not doing our job if we're fuck.
No.
Fuck you, Robert.
No, I remember that day. It was you and your wife, and it was Brian as well. Like I said, I was totally resistant towards it at first and just fighting it. And I remember leaving, felt a little bit better. Actually showed up to the meetings. I remember they were really, really tough. But after a while, I loved it. But at that point, you think everything's fine. At that point, it's not. So
you start feeling better. And so after you start feeling better, thinking you've beat it, what happens?
Oh, that's when the rock bottom hits.
That's when the wheels fall off the fucking wagon.
That's when I ended up in treatment. Yep.
How many times you go to treatment?
I've been twice, but there's been a 2-year gap. So Yes.
Good spacing. Good spacing.
Yeah. The first one was strictly substance abuse, kick the alcohol. Second one was mental breakdown. Shit's supposed to be good, but it's not. Specifically a location for behavioral health only. So
Now, were you seeing, so the entire, all that stuff going on, did you quit your doctors too, your head docs and all that shit? Or did you continue to see them or not see them?
no, I quit it.
You just figured you were better and you can move
I
on?
quit, and then I was seeing them as well. So never before the first 30-day stint, 30-day stint. But after that, I started seeing routinely therapists, everything.
Did you EMDR?
Mm-hmm.
How was it?
I prefer brain spotting, but
Yeah?
it's good.
It's good, my ass. Fucking liar.
And then,
There's nothing good about EMDR.
yeah. And then, and this is the time when, you put in the retirement paperwork, cause it's done. And then, not to get too much into it. So mine was a 2-year long battle. So that was over. But during that time, I got my first civilian job, thought I was adapting well. COVID hit, and then you're stuck back at home again. And it's like,
Now the demons catch you.
I spent all this time and effort, get out of the house, whatever. But now, you're being forced to, lock down.
So let's go back real quick to, I remember you wanted to go back to work, right?
Yeah.
Like that was your whole goal. We kept telling you to knock that shit off and quit. Not quit. We didn't use those words, but we could clearly see along with your spouse that this was not going to end well.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like we were on the outside looking in, hoping to try to help you. But, when you get, for those of you that haven't boozed it up, you get caught up and you get confident, you get cocky and you think you can go back to work and do the stuff you're going to do. And it never really works out in your favor. And then you end up in the fucking, in the loony bin. But did your wife give you an ultimatum? How did you come to the conclusion that it was time to not only dry up, but just...
Well, when you're at the point to where you're getting ready to put a bullet in your head with no questions asked, I think that's time. So.
Right. But is that decision, are you still battling the alcohol addiction?
No, surprisingly, no.
No, at the time, I'm saying when you're at that level.
Yeah, not
right.
Yeah.
And so your spouse is the one that's there. Does she pull you aside and say enough's enough, or do you get to a point where you say enough is enough?
No, I was at home alone, just me and the dog, and that's when and I made that phone call to my buddy at the sheriff's office, and he talked me out the ledge, and I went to the hospital.
Yeah. See, Scotty, all you got to do is reach out, man. That's what we keep telling people. Like, just make a call. How hard was that call?
Honestly, like it was just a moment where I was just like, I was not in control. I was going with the motions. It just seemed like the right thing to do. So, but it was terrifying. So
What'd you tell him?
It wasn't so much what I told him, and I explained it through text, and then my wife had called him too afterwards, freaking out. So it was just a whole between text and phone calls. Like, I'm just done. Like,
It was like a hospital run now.
yeah.
So you go into treatment, you do that stint, and then, like me, you decide you're going to retire.
Mm-hmm.
You retire, and like me, you think, what's a good idea? Of course, it was work comp that had the bright idea, but hey, we think you can go back to work in a civilian capacity.
Yeah, this was like 4 months after out of treatment.
Yeah. And you go into the civilian world and take this job. And I remember it was great because you came into group, right? You were there, Scotty, right?
Yeah.
By that time, you'd already started coming.
Is that the same one I'm thinking about? The same
Was
job?
the only one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
No,
Ever since I've known you, yeah.
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 So you come in and we're all excited for you, thinking, okay, you're done with the PD side of it. You've been to a couple of crazy schools. You got some tenure behind you, and you're going to go do some civilian work.
He was going to hire me.
Yeah. And he's recruiting all of us. He's like, hey, I got a job. I got these hours. And then I don't hear from you for a while, right? And I just assumed life was good at that job. And You know, every once in a while I get calls, and Scotty will attest to this, is we have officers that retire and then they feel empty and don't have a job. So I reach out to you because I have an officer call that's retired, and I'm like, hey, he's going to apply for this same particular spot that you're in. Why don't you tell us about how that phone call went and what ultimately led you to not work there anymore?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't 100% the company's fault, because still during this time, I'm retired in post-eyes, but you're still fighting the Public Safety Retirement Board in my case. And so there's the stress from that. There's the stress from COVID because you're working at home now. And then they just start throwing stuff on you. They start taking your experience for, they start taking advantage of that, start dumping more on you than you can hold. And you go back to that mindset like, I got it. And you don't. And, they were just stacking on more than I could. It got to the point where I would always argue with my management. Then I had those particular colorful words with one manager. And, eventually we came down to the agreement that we were going to mutually separate. And so I got a severance, all that stuff. But at that point, I just got back to that, not as bad as I was when I first hit rock bottom, but to that point where like I'm going to that place again, because I don't know what to fucking do if I can't be a cop again. I can't, obviously I can't do this job. What the fuck can I do? And then, on top of the stress from the legal shit going on with the retirement board, you just get to that point to where you just give up again. So
because you're getting hit from every direction.
And so, I had a friend of mine that she was a therapist of mine when I went to the substance abuse treatment center. My wife actually reached out to her. She found a place in Utah where it was behavioral health only, and they also had a special first responders program as well. So
nice.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you, at that civilian job, it sounds like you did the right thing and say, hey, you're putting too much on my plate at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So by telling them that, that's probably the right thing to do. And Scotty, you're in a civilian job now, right?
I am.
So do you see some similarities or no?
No, because my job is like, let's just say the employer is very understanding of things.
Yeah, and it was during this time too, I was talking with you, and we were at that, I was interviewing for that employer as well, because I was like, this sounds fucking sweet. And then I get the fuck you letter from them. And then that also.
You got the fuck you letter from Scotty's employer?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gee, they probably talked to your ex-employer.
The position's open again.
It's open again, by the way.
Good. I'm completely 100% content where I am at.
He's like, I'm fine exactly where I'm at. I don't want to apply for that position. So you touched on dealing with the retirement board. Mm-hmm. Are you done with work comp?
Everything's done.
Everything's done.
Everything's done.
But you had to fight for 2 years.
Yeah, it was a 2-year.
You won.
Yeah.
You won.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's what you should never give up on what's owed to you. Mm-hmm. And my fight was almost 4. Maybe I took it too far, and it shouldn't have went to the 3-year mark, 3.5 year. But I'm glad you got what you deserved and what you were owed. Where are you in your recovery now?
I'm in a good. I mean, just got out of that other place. At the end. At the end of May. Got a really good job right now. I'm still going to therapy routinely, not giving that up again. And just pieces are just starting to fall into place now, where it's like everything from, I like to say like past life or past phase, right? It's just starting to get further and further away in the rearview mirror. So stuff's starting to get easier, as time goes on. Still have work to do with, stuff that I messed up while I was in that phase, like friendships and, stuff like that. But other than that, I'm in a very content place right now.
Oh, you said you're working again. Mm-hmm. What do you do?
I actually, without getting into too much specifics, because I'm still learning HIPAA and all that shit, I'm actually working in behavioral health now at an administrative level.
Administrative?
Yeah.
You're not boots on the ground, crazy teaching crazy?
No. Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yep.
Still too fresh.
Yeah.
But so did you learn anything from the first civilian job to this job? Like, how are you dealing with the frustration? And
I came to the realization that I just needed to not do anything remotely involved with law enforcement, whether it be in the public sector, as an investigator, whatever. I want nothing that would I just needed to be away from it. I wanted to go in somewhere where I still felt passionate about, but at the same time I knew nothing about, which was, I knew a lot about behavioral health from the patient standpoint, but not from a clinical standpoint. So getting in that new role, and then you're always going to have those attributes that go with you, you know, the leadership attributes, those values and those stuff that you can't teach, you learn, you know, in your prior career, that no matter what you do outside, everyone thinks they have to go, you know, get these $100 an hour corporate investigator jobs that we can easily get, but it's not gonna, I mean, it's more beneficial. Just do what you want to do. So
fuck yeah, you couldn't have said that better. I mean, I think all of us here are qualified for some pretty high paying jobs, and keep your money. My opinion.
It's not worth your mental health.
It's not worth the mental health part of it, because when you start getting up there, you start seeing the bullshit that goes on, and you know, our
it's
brains.
Just like being back. Yeah, it's going to be bullshit wherever you go.
You get mentally, you get tired. You get tired, Scotty?
I'm tired all the time.
Well, because you work fucking 10s again, and you got twins. So, but I'm saying
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
At work, at the end of your shift, where you're at now in the civilian position, do you ever clock out and you just think, I'm mentally exhausted from it?
Yeah. Surprisingly, because it's not.
Don't insult yourself.
I know,
It's not
right?
like a monkey can do it.
Not that mentally straining, coming from where we've come from.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But yeah, I mean, I have been accused of zoning out on the couch after work before.
You zone out here and in meetings, so it doesn't really matter.
What?
It could be your fucking meds.
And it's just one of those things where you just gotta, you know, that's always going to be with you forever. Once you come to that realization, it's just how you cope with it and how you know, what's the word I'm looking for? How you handle it, or
Adapt. Deal with
adapt.
it.
Yeah. Like, hey, I recognize it. I know it's there, but how is it going to affect me? I can't let it ruin my rest of my day, you know?
So before we wrap up, you're clean, sober?
Yeah, it's been 2 years since I've drank.
2 years?
Yeah.
That's a travesty.
Yeah.
What are you looking at, Scotty? Just because I'm having a little coffee?
May 10th, 2019 was the last day I had alcohol.
God bless you for that.
Who's counting?
I'll get you a chip. Whatever you didn't drink, I drank. Although I have to say, I do talk mad shit because I enjoy my whiskey and my cigars, but I do it in moderation now. But on one last note, so Robert and I just got into gaming, but I guess Robert, was that one of your addictions before? Was just checking out on gaming? Or no, that was just something you did?
Yeah, not so much. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Because you go there and, you know, you have particular friends that you play with and stuff like that. Then, yeah, it is a good way to check out because you're not thinking about anything. But, yeah, it's just general fun to have.
Yeah.
So.
But we also have rules, right? Because I'll shoot him a text on Discord or something, and I'll be like, "Hey, we're gonna Arma 3." And then I get a text back and say, "I'm not available to play until after 9." That would be you, Scotty. If you ever become a big boy and come gaming,
You guys are just nerds.
it'll be after 9. But in all honesty, I got to tell you, I didn't believe it. My 17-year-old got me into it. It's not something that we do to excess. And, you know, Robert can attest to this. We log in, pick a time, we play for a couple hours, and we laugh pretty fucking hard. I mean, it's something that I think our spouses have come to understand is kind of like boy time, I guess. Like, that's what Zach's, you know, wife, if we're not having cigars and chopping it up, we'll have our boy time where we go play Arma 3 or GTA or 0 Hour. And it never ceases to amaze me that when we get in there, one of us will get pissed off at ourselves for not doing something. And Robert is notorious for doing that. But I got to tell you, for as much time as we go on, it is definitely therapeutic. And it's very helpful for me, and I appreciate you when you come on and you join the rest of us, because there's like it's like 6 of us now that come on there, right? 6, 7 of us.
Yeah.
So, you know, I do appreciate you, Robert, coming out. I know it might have been a little tough because there's some stuff there that you're still working through. We'll have you on again, and you know, it's a similar note. You started a group, right? You started a group out east.
Yes.
You started helping officers the same way.
Yes.
So you're in the East Valley.
Yes.
Is there a way they can reach out to you?
Yes, you can call me 480-326-3519.
So
text or call.
Yeah. So shoot him a text, give him a call, send him dirty messages just for fun.
We don't have a cool name yet, pending. So
yeah. Well, you'll create one.
Call it Manny.
I asked Dave. I don't think our name's cool. So
yeah. No,
it's
and
not.
like I said, that decision was made once, you know, the reorganize. You guys wanting to stay more central. I know there's people that don't want to come all the way
Yeah.
over here, so it's like shit.
Yeah.
So,
We definitely don't compete. Robert's a good dude.
yeah.
And, you know, if you're not in the, you know, driving mood and you don't want to come into Phoenix, you know, definitely reach out to Robert. He knows what he's talking about. He's got a lot of experience behind him, and he definitely, his heart's in the right spot for sure. I talk to him at least once a week, whether we're gaming or whatever the case may be.
Bullshitting, yeah.
Just bullshitting. So, with that being said, Robert, you got anything else for us? Anything else you can think of? Any shout outs? Your wife is a very, very strong woman,
Yeah,
dedicated.
I mean, just, you know, sticking with me. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I just, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, if you can go back in time, would you do it over again? I was like, absolutely not, because I wouldn't have met my wife. I wouldn't have met the amazing support that I got after meeting my wife, you know, from her family, my family, and just stuff like that. Yeah. So absolutely.
So when you say that, I know I would ask you that. So knowing what you know now, would you be a cop again?
Absolutely. But I would do it later in life.
Later.
Yeah.
I would totally do it again. I think I'd pay more attention to what my body was telling me, my mind was telling me.
Yeah, I would absolutely, because you got to remember, and you know, the more you go through this behavioral stuff, you learn, obviously we learn more about the brain, right? The brain doesn't fully develop until you're 25 years old. So you got to think, you know, you go through these trauma incidents, 18 to 23, 24, 25, that shit's going to affect you in the long term. So yeah, I would absolutely go back and tell myself, I was like, get yourself established, go back to school, get your degree. When you hit your mid-20s, then go do your thing. So that's what I would do different. But other than that, even this journey that I've had with, you know, the treatment centers and everything like this, the people that I've met along this way as well, I would have never have met otherwise. And they're lifelong friends. And that's something you got to look at too, as you put it in perspective as well. So.
And it's not all bad.
No.
I mean, I probably had more good. It's just that the bad that we have overshadows sometimes. Scotty, the intern, what do you got? You're up next. Your podcast is coming up, so
I'm saving it all for then.
all right. Nothing else?
No, as long as I don't have to hear Morrissey again, we're good.
Oh, it's coming. And we'll talk about it. All right, guys. For that, those of you that listen, those of you who've been here, to us, and those like us, and we'll see you on the next one.